All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the Sunset Empire Transportation District Budget Committee training. April 16th, June to 2. Hopefully we'll go through this pretty quickly. Has everyone signed in on this sheet? Okay, then I'll go ahead and send this one. Oh, you did? Oh, then, yeah, she's so good. She's already anticipated. Okay.
Thank you, Sarah.
So I'm going to run through this PowerPoint fairly quickly. Before I do, we want to do introductions real quick. Can we have time for that? Let's go ahead around the room. Just state your name, your position, and yeah, do that.
Matthew, Board Commissioner.
Jonathan Niebuhr, Chair of the Transit Advisory Committee.
Guillermo Domeno, I'm a board commissioner on the board, transit board.
Lauren Wilson, Budget Committee Secretary.
Penny York, I'm on the Board of Commissioners.
Nate Griffith, I'm on the TAP Committee. Didn't see you yet.
I'm Zach Black, I'm one of the budget committees. John Lansing, field staff, the representative Cyrus Javity.
We have staff on hand.
Jennifer Geisler, Chief Operations Officer. Sarah Schilling, Executive Assistant.
Jason Jones, Mobility Manager.
And the star of our show.
Thanks. Jennifer Stalin, Finance Officer.
So she's new. She's only been here a couple of weeks, so I want to be gentle. Actually, we're not going to be talking about budget today. We're going to talk about budget training today. There's a distinction. So if I cross that line, Penny's been instructed to throw something at me. I would like to go online and introduce people online if we could, just real quick. I don't want to forget about them, as I want to do. Sorry about that. Technology. It's a wonderful thing.
Nielsen, Senior Consultant for Special Districts Association.
One second, we're not quite ready for you. Jason is trying to get this.
Apologize. Here we go.
Okay. So, Betty, do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Betty Nielsen, Senior Consultant for Special Districts Association of Oregon.
All right. And then we have two of our staff online, Sam.
Somebody here, Human Resources Manager.
And Victoria. She may not.
I don't know if she has
I
audio.
don't think she has a mic. So she'd be saying hi. She's our payroll and
AP.
She might not realize she's muted.
no, I think she doesn't have a mic on her.
Oh,
Or a camera, something like that. Anyway, she's just in the other room. So go ahead and get started on the training.
Right now.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome you all here today. Okay, so here we go. So we did introductions. We'll talk about our current services, our funding, and then Jennifer will go into our budget format. So our mission statement, Sunset Empire Transportation District is dedicated to providing safe, reliable, relevant, and sustainable transportation services to Clatsop County with professionalism, integrity, and courtesy. These are some great pictures of our staff. We just did these, and you know, there's some really good looking folks there, and Jason's in there, and sorry about that. So what we'll do is we'll talk about current services. We have fixed route, ride assist, which is paratransit and dial-a-ride, and mobility management. So our fixed route, we have 4 routes. The Route 10, which is in Astoria, the Route 15 in Warrenton. We run up Cannon Beach and Astoria to the Seaside route. We have limited service, but they all connect this area during the weekday. On the weekend, we have just one service, which is a Pacific Connector, which goes between here and Cannon Beach, 5 loops a day. Paratransit, this is where we're picking up folks that are mobility challenged and in wheelchairs and taking them to, it's a complement to the fixed route system because not everyone can ride down the fixed route. The buses are hard to get in and out of, and oftentimes the way they start and stop, it's not easy for someone that's mobility impaired or otherwise to get on a bus. So we go from curb to curb, which means we pick them up in front of their house and we take them to where they're going. We schedule round trips. We do subscriptions. The service is available within 3/4 of a mile of an existing bus route. So we can't cover the whole county, but within 3/4 of an existing route, we'll go and pick them up and be able to take them to where they need to go. The service mirrors our fixed route timing. There is an application process, so there's an eligibility process. You have to demonstrate that the service is suitable for you and it would work for you. And it pays twice the fare. Now, our fare is $1, so that means it's $2. So I think it's pretty good benefit to the folks here, and it's my favorite service in that we're taking people to the doctor, we're taking them to the grocery store, we're taking them to visit their family and friends, people that might otherwise be shut in can get out, and I think it's really this is a really my favorite service. Dial-a-ride, it is curb to curb, but it's limited to these areas and during different times. And these are the areas we don't run a fixed route to, but we will be able to schedule a pickup if you call in, and we'll be able to do it during the days we offer these services. One-way fare is $8 up to $12. And right now, all we've covered just Jeffers Gardens, Miles Crossing, John Day, Swenson, and Napa. Mobility management, now there he is again.
Is there any pushback on your fare?
No.
Okay.
I think the difficulty with our fare is it's so low that any increase, if you went from $1 to $2, that's 100% increase.
More dramatic.
Yeah, and so we're kind of in that spot. Our neighbors to the north don't charge a fare, but they get a subsidy in effect to cover that. So we're in a kind of an interesting spot because we don't want to charge $1.25 or $1.50, and we don't want that becomes a change thing, and it costs more to handle that. And yeah, so mobility management, Jason does a wonderful job with travel training. This is where folks, when they first introduced to the system, we help them get on the bus, explain to them how to read the schedules, do these kind of things. Not only individuals get travel training, and we do it for school groups, and we've been out to the elementary school in Warrenton and the different high schools and stuff. So and we've appeared at the veterans what do they call that? Coffees and things like that. So Jason's all over the community reaching out to these groups. We're trying to do this outreach to these specific targeted groups so that they have opportunities to learn how to use the system and can access the system and take advantage of some of the benefits. So public transit funding as three-legged. Federal is about 2/3 of our money. We get a couple of different federal grants, and it constitutes a significant portion of our subsidy, and it's through the federal programs, which are administered by ODOT. The state, primary one we get is STIF, State Transportation Improvement Fund, which I think is from 2017. That fund provides us with 0.1% of the payroll tax, which it was designed to help support us. That fund is something that they're currently working on and looking at. We hope that we can make some progress there. And then the state general fund is a little bit of money. And then the local sources. Property tax.
Oh, sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
Oh.
Have you noticed, have you had any issues with federal funding?
Yes.
Is that a loaded question?
There's a lot going on there. I don't know how much I can go into, so let me. But there's definitely a change, and there'll be a decrease, and so we're going to have to manage that. And I can't go into the detail of that, but it's there's significant changes happening. Local property tax, fair collections. Fair collections is such a small percentage of what we get in revenue. It's not even really that significant. Local general fund, social services, volunteer labor, but property tax, and we get some timber tax as well. The outlook there is not particularly rosy either. So 5310. So this is for mobility. We get buckets of money. So 5310 is for mobility, is for, let's say, Jason's programs and paratransit services. So that money's allocated in that silo, that money's spent in that way. It really does a lot for mobility, and there's some discretion that we can have in that process, and there is some capital and stuff we can use, but it's kind of limited because the amount of money we get in this is far less than in the 5311 fund, and it's restricted on how we can spend. 5311 is our formula funds for rural, and we can use it for vehicles and equipment and facilities and operations and planning. Operations is the lion's share of where this goes. Capital, there's a different grant process and different funding groups that come for that, but we can use this money, but it is our majority of our operations funding. The STIF fund, I mentioned that a little bit earlier. It was voted in, and it does provide a little bit of money for us, probably about a third, but maybe not quite that much. But it just like in the federal programs, there are things we can spend it on. We have a plan, we present the plan, we have to spend it within those plan limitations. This is really our match for our federal. It's really important to understand. So if we get this federal money, 90% of it is used for operation, but we have to provide 10% match. So this STIF money really gives us the opportunity to match that federal money, and it allows us to leverage that federal money to go further. 5304 is for planning. What was I going to say about that? I got to be careful not to say about our current budget. There's no money in that fund right now, so it's kind of, but we do need to take advantage of that when it does come available. And the same thing with 5339, we just applied for a grant there, and that's how you pay for your bus and bus facilities. I mean, you can use your other money for that, but this is where the lion's share of that money comes from, and it's a competitive grant. So we apply for that every other year, and we hope to get money to buy a replacement bus. The problem is if you don't get it in this grant cycle, you have to wait 2 more years before you apply for the next one. Other funding sources, we mentioned it before, property tax. There's a state mass transit payroll distribution. That's slightly different than STIF. It's a lot smaller too. Timber rentals are parking spaces here, and the billboard is not a significant amount of money, but it's a little bit of money. There are other grants. We apply for grants as they become available, and there's other things, electric vehicle charging and vending machines. But again, there's not very much money there. And then fares, we mentioned that earlier as well. So now I'm going to hand this over to Jennifer.
Thank you. So what is the budget? A budget is a financial plan containing estimates of revenues and expenditures for a single fiscal year or biennial budget period. It is based on estimates of revenues and expenditures and other requirements. Budgeting allows a local government to evaluate its needs in light of the revenue sources available to meet those needs. A complete budget justifies the imposition of property taxes and the making of the appropriations that give the government its authority to spend public money. Should I press the arrow?
Right.
Types of funds. We have the general fund for general operations with no restrictions on how resources are used. Special revenue fund dedicated to specific purpose grants. Reserve fund used to accumulate money for financing the cost of a service, project, property, or piece of equipment. Resources versus requirements. Resources, cash on hand and anticipated receipts. Requirements, expenditures going out, other budget transactions, or money being held for future use. The clicker isn't working. Here's the form LB20 for our budget.
Can you go back just real quick? So this is a standard template that's used in the state for us to provide our budget format. So this is consistent throughout agencies our size, and this is the format they give us to utilize. It's kind of small here. You see some of the headings in there, and then we put other things in there as we go. This is what you'll see when we propose the budget, and hopefully we'll have like dollars in there, have some money to put in there to fill those funds. Right, Juan?
This is form Oregon LB30.
Can you go back to that one? I've done a lot of municipal budgets, and I was just looking at this, and so this would be like each program that you're doing. So you might have this for your like a department or how.
That's right. Operations, marketing, mobility.
So each one of those
HR.
would have one of these. Okay.
Correct. Form LB30, this is a continuation of the last form, page 2. Budget resources, budgeting cash or networking capital, fares, rental income, grants, gifts, donations, commissions, proceeds.
Can I ask a question there?
Sure.
Do we receive donations? Do we have a mechanism to do that?
None that I'm aware of. We're certainly open to it.
Well, I know that right now Benton County is in the process of, they contract their transit services with a nonprofit that does receive donation. And the county is proposing taking over the transit, bringing it to the house. So I'm thinking about this, they're maybe giving up the opportunity to have donations to the program.
I think we can certainly receive them. There's nothing that prohibits that. It's just transit typically isn't one of those agencies that get, higher ed, they donate money when you name a building after them or something like that. I guess we can name a bus. That's just going to be. At this point, we're not seeing any traction in that area. So.
Naming opportunities is for the future.
Yeah.
But I can't talk about futures.
I kind of like the idea of naming class though.
Yeah.
Okay, back to budget resources. Interest earned on deposits, state mass transit payroll distribution, state timber revenue, property taxes, previous year's property taxes. Budget requirements, statutory minimum standard, general fund, administration, 5 million.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
We probably should have not had that on there. So just go ahead and skip that. Sorry about that. That was a.
Okay, could not, as long as you don't guess it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, there can't be a required amount of money for.
No, that was a reference to
Yeah,
some
okay.
historical information. So,
Okay, that's why I
So,
was questioning.
I didn't want it to inform this budget.
Right,
So that was just
That's
previous
fine.
numbers and,
That's fine.
yeah, so sorry about that. It's on
That's
me.
okay.
Other, operating contingency, an amount reasonably expected to be spent on unidentified operating expenses. Reserved for future expenditure, an amount planned to save for future spending. unappropriated ending fund balance, amount set aside in the budget to be carried over to the next year's budget to cover costs prior to resources being available. Budget committee meeting process. All meetings subject to public meetings law. Presiding officer must be elected at first meeting. Quorum is required to conduct business. Majority of committee is required to take action. Committee may request and receive additional information from district officials.
I would say that it says presiding official must be elected at first meeting. This is not the first meeting. This is the training. So at the next meeting, our first official meeting, we'll have an election and we'll appoint officer.
And can I add to that, both board members and the lay members, the budget, other appointed budget commissioners can be a presiding officer. So you might want to be thinking about what you want to do.
Well, and what I failed to mention is I am the budget officer for the district
Right.
on this occasion.
And how many, because I'm brand new to this, how many commissioners and then how many lay members? What's the
So
total
it's the
number?
entire board. And then in this case, we have, I think, six. We have six members. We wanted to have seven members, but we have to find them in.
There's 7 members of the board.
7 members of the board and 6 members of the budget committee.
But don't you need to have 7 members of the
There's
budget
a
committee?
vacancy.
I know, but isn't it required to have an equal number?
No, it's not. We do a good faith effort to have,
Okay.
I think I think we want to have 9 members. Because we want to have them all in these different categories and different classes.
It's 7 and 7 for the budget.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be the equal number of the elected
But since
officials.
We've both been in
But this
Yeah.
those environments a lot, so that's why I was
TAC
asking that.
TAC is different. TAC is the
Yeah,
group where you have to
that's one, yeah.
have people from different
Yeah.
categories.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
What the budget committee does. Receives the budget document, hears the budget message, hears and considers public comment, discusses and revises the budget if needed, makes a budget recommendation.
Add on that, the second to last bullet. The budget committee is going to make a budget recommendation, as it says in the last, to the commission. So the budget committee doesn't, I don't think, technically revises the budget, as it says in the second to last,
I think they can.
Yeah, they can.
They can.
for their
Mhm.
recommendation.
Right.
Through a recommendation.
Yeah.
They
It
can.
takes
But
a majority of
they're
it.
not actually changing it because it hasn't been approved yet. The approval process happens at the board of.
So it's a
Right.
3-step process,
Mhm.
right? David and Jennifer
Right.
will propose a budget to this committee. The committee can then discuss and revise as the committee sees fit, and then they recommend that budget to the board.
Right. So the budget commission is not taking any final action on the budget.
Correct.
It's what step in the budget process there.
We're taking
Revised.
final action on what the commission receives. Because you
On
receive,
your recommendation.
you receive the recommendations from this group,
Right,
or else why would we be here?
right.
Because we might decide, no, we don't want to spend $10 million on a new copier in the office. We only want to spend $3 million on that new copier. And so what would go forward to the commission would be the $3 million.
So just as written, discusses and revises the budget recommendations if needed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that would be fair.
That might be clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Adoption of the budget. Governing body holds budget hearing. After the hearing, the governing body can change the budget estimates and tax levy. However, if they want to, increase tax by any amount or increase expenditures in any fund by 10% or more, or 5K, whichever is greater. They must republish the amended budget summary and hold another budget meeting.
Get this one. And that's it. So that concludes our training. We can't talk about the specifics of the upcoming budget, but if you have any questions about the presentation,
Can you talk about the budget, the departments that the budget is organized?
yes, we have operations, we have admin, we have mobility, and we have what am I forgetting?
Marketing.
Marketing.
And I didn't see any, are there any specific resources from, the Veterans Organization or the Veterans State Organization?
If we had anything like that, it would be included. Those things are typically included in other revenue, and we would define those in our revenue side of our budget. So anything we get that's a one-off or something different, we would clearly describe it there, and you would see it there.
But have we established a schedule for the budget committee?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
I don't have it in front of me. Sarah,
The first meeting is April 30th.
April 30th.
Thursday, April 30th, 1:00. The second meeting is May 15th.
Yeah.
At 1:30, I believe. And then there's a third as the meeting, I believe is June 12th.
15. And we have a requirement to publish this in the paper and give notice. And so all these things have to follow this prescribed schedule and do this in this prescribed method as required by ORS. So that's why we're doing this way and actually not talking about the budget.
Right.
Okay, any other questions? Well, thank you again for attending this. We are working on the budget as we speak. There's a lot of different things that are evolving. And as we bring this all together, we'll get this to you in advance. You'll have a chance to look it over. We'll have the first meeting will be very much open and transparent. So questions, anything you have, bring to that. That'd be wonderful. And because the dollars will be less, the conversations are going to be kind of difficult, I think. And we just have to keep in mind that the outlook for transit in the near term is not extremely positive. We'll be able to keep going and keep managing things, but we're going to have to make changes and we're going to have to adapt to the new environment.
Before we adjourn, could you just check and make sure that there aren't any members of the public that have a question or comment?
Oh, for sure. No, I ignored you all completely. So anyone online have any questions, comments?
So one question, if I could. So I'm consulting on producing the budget from the Special Districts Association. And I was just wondering if there's any any part of the process last year that you would want to review with us to give us direction if you were on the budget committee last year. If you want to see something presented differently, or if you have some ideas on the budget presentation.
It's not a question, but a comment that I assume that the last year, this current year's budget is either on our website or under request, that staff can provide it for someone so they could review the current budget. It might help orient them to what we're going to be looking at next time, or just what the budget actually looks like, what kind of information is actually there.
So I believe the budget's on the website. So it's the previous budget is on the website, and previous budgets are available on the website.
One thing, I mean, we will see those previous budget years, because what is it, 3 years will show up on the left-hand side.
Correct.
The one thing that I always find interesting is the one that says the year-to-date numbers, because sometimes you'll look at those and it's like, okay, it's 10 months or whatever the timing has been. Other times you might look at that and it's 100%, or maybe it's 2%, because you've got payments that are going to be made in June. So I would like to have a feel when we look at those kinds of things, if there's any that are really off like that, that we know that, don't look at this and think, oh, well, we can lower this amount because they've only spent, $1 million and they should have spent 3 million and they've only spent 1 million so far. So we could take that down to 1 million. Well, that doesn't take into account that there's $2 million bill that's going to come up shortly.
When we have those discussions, we're going to talk about where we are and where we're going and what we anticipate even further down the road. Because in these times, we can't look at it from 1 year to the next. We have to look from this year to the next biennium, to the next biennium, because there's so much uncertainty. If the administration changes, things could change. And the federal budget, the president's budget's adopted, it has impacts on us. So all these different things, it's not like it. I don't know what it used to be, but I want to say it's not like it used to be. There is no consistency at this point. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of moving parts too. The legislature's trying to do stuff. The federal government's trying to do stuff. We're trying to do stuff. But going into that now, I can't go into that now, but there's a whole, in our budget message, I'll talk about what it looks like, our near-term projections, what our long-term, what our long-term strategy might be. We're still, I'm in my 10th month and I've got new staff and we're in this formulative stage where we're coming on board and we're just coming in here, getting our foundation built, getting things squared away, creating this positive supporting environment. And at the same time, we're kind of drinking from a fire hose where all the changes, all the different things are happening all right now. And, ODOT has changed the way they do things. The federal government's changed the way they do things. So we're getting hit with all this stuff, not just budget's the normal thing, but we're getting hit with all these other things at the same time. So it's creating this whole mosaic of things that we have to try to figure out. It's like the spinning the plates, right? That dollar in that fund today may reflect differently in the future. And how we are, some money carries over, some money goes back to the feds. And we have to make sure that we spend as much of that federal money as we can. And at the same time, we have to maintain operations in the level we're at and enhance things within the framework that we have.
Right.
And especially once you get the budget, it's really, really important for budget commissioners to be as knowledgeable as you can be, and to, as questions come up in your mind, that you can find answers to them. So you're welcome to call. And David, would you like questions to?
Yes, all questions need to come to me, but I'm happy to answer them all, and everything that I can answer, I will. And of course, I have really smart people supporting me, and I'm surrounded by them. So we will come up with answers. We may not have answers to everything either. So some of it's going to be, a lot of, if it goes this way or goes that way type of things.
And in my experience, a lot of initial questions are, what does this column mean? And what does this mean?
Yeah.
More than the bigger, why did you put the money here or there? But really just how do I read this? I think this means such and such, but I wanted to make sure that I'm right. So they're often at the beginning, those kind of, what am I looking at questions.
Yeah, and we're going to do everything we can to answer all that. We're learning the process. Our finance officer has been on board for 2 weeks. Now I have veterans here that can provide us with a lot of information. The finance is a unique group, and we are going to do everything we can to answer questions. We may have to go get you an answer, and we appreciate your patience with that.
Will we get a paper budget book, or will it be online, or where will we get?
That's a great question. We're we'll obviously send you a workbook, but if we want printed copies or things like that, I think that's not unusual, and we can certainly make those. I mean, I would imagine in that meeting, we would have, a packet. So, and then whatever any other needs that you might have, you express those, let us know.
Sometimes jurisdictions will obviously make a link so that so you can look at it online. But generally when it comes out, you just have a few days to read it and prepare. So generally we'll print copies and either make them available here or let folks know you'll be able to pick it up at the transit center tomorrow afternoon, something like that. Because for a lot of us, still a paper copy that we can write notes on and tag, it is easier to use.
Yeah.
I would like a paper copy.
I think we are required to publish a notice, and then we're required to publish the draft budget, and then not the draft budget, but the final budget. So when we're in here working on it, we'll do everything we can to provide you with. Yeah. Betty is our consultant, has been a wonderful job with us so far. Am I omitting anything, forgetting anything?
I would just reiterate what you're saying is that our plan right now is to have a hard copy available as well as an electronic copy. There are some people that like to have that electronic copy, but we always want to make sure that we provide it to the board, like you're referring to, that we have a hard copy available as well, so that you can tag it and write on it. That's what I would do if I was you. I like to have a hard copy. And so I think that's it.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from the virtual world? Any other questions or comments here? Then I adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.